Sinister 2. We saw it yesterday.
We did. Second ever ZMass Productions. Was it worth it? Movie review.
Yeah. So, Sinister 2. What was that about? What happened, Luke?
Well, you didn't see the first movie, right?
No,
Yeah.
I had no context.
Yeah.
And I'm
Well,
generally not a horror fan.
in the first movie, what they did slightly different is it was more or less you had Ethan Hawke playing the main character. He got to this house that was super creepy, and they got for super cheap. And he came across these like snuff films and all this other stuff, and he's trying to figure out what was going on with all this stuff. And essentially, he ended up discovering the Bagul, but it was a lot more mysterious in that movie. To like you didn't know what was really going on until towards the end, and then it all kind of ramps up and then ends.
Okay.
And so then this movie, they take where it leaves off essentially, like a couple of years, I think. Because you had the detective dude or whatever, and he was the friend from the first movie. Apparently, I don't remember his character in the first movie, but he's apparently the friend from that movie. And you pick up with him after he's been in jail for like a year or something.
I don't know.
There was some weird thing that went with that, and you pick up with him trying to figure out what was going on and trying to stop this Bagul creature. And that's basically the start of the plot.
Yep.
The second movie.
I liked the fact that it does not require you to have seen the film, and in no way was I like, the fuck is going on?
Mm.
Except, when they started talking. But that's a different reason. So yeah, that I knew what was going on at every point in the movie, having not seen the previous
Which was
movie.
really interesting with the way they did it too in the sequel, is they tried to abstain as much as they could from exposition, unless it was like a moment where the characters themselves were actually learning something. And
Yeah,
so they
generally.
they kind of showed the exposition more through the ghost kids.
Yeah.
Which was the thing that made it weird for me, because they had nothing to do with ghost kids in the first movie. So they kind of like brought these ghost kids out of the woodwork. Because here I was expecting to show more Bagul and have the Bagul doing the stuff more rather than something like that. Instead, they had it go through like the patsy of the ghost kids.
I didn't mind that too much, maybe because I didn't see the first one.
Yeah.
But I kind of thought that was a neat
It was a
twist.
It was a neat way to do it. Yeah. It had like a nice 80s, 90s horror movie feel too. Kind
Yeah.
of. It reminded me of like something like Children on the Stairs or whatever.
Let's talk about the story of this movie.
Yep.
The story of this
Itself.
movie. So basically, the detective, who is apparently in the first movie, is going around. He's figured out the pattern.
Yep.
Bagul follows a pattern because all evil demons are restricted to residential zones. And he's burning down the houses before Bagul can strike, is what I got out of it.
Again, at that same house.
Yeah. And then he comes up to this house, but there's secretly a family living in it, played by the chick from A Knight's Tale and two dumbass kids.
Yep.
And she is being chased by her ex/husband guy.
Who's super crazy, super rich, and I don't know. It was
Well, they suggest he's super rich.
Yeah.
He's at very least super connected.
Yeah.
Which, whatever. It's totally unnecessary to the story, but it's to make you feel
bad for
her
and her kids,
and to give you a payoff at the end. Which it didn't.
No.
I think that fell flat. I didn't give a fuck about any of the characters as usual. But at least the stuff was cool. And anyway, they're living in this house, and one of the kids is having nightmares every night about what happened in that house.
Yep.
He's seeing what happened in that house, and apparently this kid killed his family in the church that was right next door. Kind of like this one. So then a ghost kid comes up, and the kid's totally cool with this ghost kid. So apparently they've been hanging out for a while.
Yeah.
Before the ghost kid starts showing him these snuff movies.
Yep.
And he's totally cool with it. Like, oh, I don't want to watch this, but you won't have nightmares. Well, yeah, I will, about what the fuck I just watched. Where was that? Like,
yeah.
You just watched a kid kill his whole family, and you're
Mhm.
not gonna have nightmares about
Well, I think
that.
the concept was more or less because Bagul is kind of like the boogeyman, so he's trying to capture the kids' spirits, kind of.
Yeah.
And in a way, it's kind of like if you watch these snuff films, Bagul protects you from the nightmares because you watched the one film that he wanted you to watch, type of thing. Like it's kind of like an initiation thing.
Well, I
They
understand
kind of
that
have
it's
it
like
that
an
way. I
initiation,
mean, it
but
doesn't make sense,
I just
but
don't feel that that particular aspect. Oh, watch this terrible thing, and you won't have
have another
nightmares.
terrible thing.
Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. But I was willing to.
Yeah.
I didn't. Fuck it. Whatever. Do what you want. As long as it leads somewhere cool, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
And then, so that goes on for a couple nights, and just more and more kids start appearing, more and more dead kids. And then they're watching. Each of them is watching a film they made while they're murdering their family.
Yep, their family.
And the films themselves were really cool.
Yep.
They were probably the best part of the movie because they were all grainy and like 70s looking.
And I think like the only reason I had a problem with the way they did it in this one as opposed to the first one is in the first one you're discovering these films for the first time rather than having them like given to you.
Yeah.
So like in the first one it's more of like an adventure, like what's happening, what's going to be on this next one. What are you going to discover here? Are you going to see the Bagul in this next bit of footage, etc., etc.?
And you don't see Bagul in any of these films.
Nope. Instead, you see him in like resonating pictures and shit like that when he's haunting people.
Yeah, and occasionally when he's fucking with the detective.
Yeah, the detective who's onto him, and Bagul knows he's onto him.
Yeah. Although I don't see why he didn't just like kill him in his sleep or whatever.
Yeah.
Is Bagul incapable of killing people?
I'm not sure because it's like everything he does, it's through children. So it's like you never really see Bagul's full potential.
It's a little vague on what Bagul can do.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you're every night it's a new movie, and they're done really well. The music's really creepy, and for the most part, although in one of them, the one with the water and the electricity, didn't work for me. Yeah, they had CGI burns on them, and that it showed through the grain, the film grain, to look really fake and really cheesy to me. They weren't necessary. That wouldn't have happened like that anyway. But that's neither here nor there, really.
Yeah, so like they basically pick up the story where this dude is trying to capture Bagul, finds that this family's living in the next house he needs to burn.
Well, he's just trying to stop Bagul.
Yeah, by
he
getting rid
of
the.
Yeah.
So he's like, so he doesn't know this family is like living in this place, hiding out from the ex.
Yeah.
And then he meets them there, and then they kind of start developing this relationship. And he's like, "Oh, all these people live here, so he's got to make them stay in the house."
Yeah.
And of course, they don't stay in the house.
Well, no.
And it leads up to the big
and apparently
climax.
They say like I'm supposed to already know that Bagul kills the family when they leave the house. That is never stated anywhere in this movie. Nope. It is never hinted at. It is never anything until they say it. Oh, of course, and of course you know that Bagul kills them once they leave this house. Although the last one you see, the one with the kid that's from that house, he killed them in the church that's right next fucking door.
Yeah.
So you don't have to leave this house. They broke their own rules. I didn't realize that until about 10 minutes ago. But yeah, they break their own rules, which is you should never do.
But the only reason why they think that that's how Bagul kills is because
none of the other ones do.
Is either, because in the first movie, he doesn't actually hurt the family until they move out, and the only reason that happens is because he gets pissed off that they're no longer where he is, and so he like instantly like possesses the children, and the children kill the father, and I just ruined the first movie for you. And then then the ending happens, and it's like this weird trippy ending and stuff, because they moved out. And so they think that that's what happens because like the patterning is normally that they leave, then Bagul strikes type of a thing. But that's not how it has to happen because it's kind of him.
Clearly.
Because the whole point to it being called Sinister is that he's like corrupting youth.
So they say.
Yeah.
The kid was kind of fucked up anyway.
Yeah, he was.
Anyway, so yeah, then it all leads up to this well-connected father brings in the sheriff and says, "Hey, I'm taking these kids home with me," even though he's a douchebag who doesn't like his kids anyway.
Yeah.
His motivation was really weird.
Was ownership, essentially.
Well,
like, that's like the only thing that came across with me for him was, I own you people.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be a total douche to you, and I don't really like you, but because I own you, I have to deal with you.
It made like no sense.
He could have had just like hooker and coke parties. He had the cops in his pocket.
Yeah.
And he has his stupid fucking family there instead. But anyway, he takes the kids and gives the Knight's Tale lady a choice. You can either come with me or go away. But either way, these kids are coming with me. And she goes with him. Which, fine, whatever. And that's when shit goes down.
Yep. Shit goes down.
I don't know if we want to do spoilers.
No, we don't need to spoil the ending, but I want to say some really cool things that did happen. Is saying we can go into positives right off of this. This is near the ending and whatnot with those children that I didn't really like the way they set that up. I did like how they, near the end, were showing some really cool footage that I've never seen them do normally in a ghost movie. Where it's like, because the kids can see these ghost kids, right? And these ghost kids are fucking with the house.
Yeah.
Just throwing shit
that
everywhere.
I thought was pretty cool.
And it's like cutting from them, showing what they're doing, as the kids see what they're doing. But then cutting to the adults, as all they see is just utter chaos.
Yep.
Of floating material.
And then they show it from the camera's perspective.
Yep.
And the camera's catching all these kids doing the shit too. And I actually really like that. I was like, it's a cool switch of perspective.
It's like, that's one thing that I really liked about it. I also liked, even though the detective was poorly written, I felt like the actor brought some kind of like realism to the character to an extent.
At least in one scene.
Well, it was also like, he's like built up as like this really awkward dude, essentially. And they're kind of like acting it out as if he's very awkward, but knows what kind of knows what he's doing. And it plays across in a way where it's like, okay, I get it. It's affable enough where you're like, I kind of root for this guy, but at the same time, you're not really connecting. So it's like there was like this weird catch-22 where it's a positive and a negative at the same time.
The way he acted, I don't know if it was so much the character, but the actor, I didn't like it.
Oh.
From the very get-go, I was like, oh, Christ, this guy. I don't know who this guy is, and maybe he's a great actor.
I think I remember saying.
But I was like, oh, fuck, just die.
The movie opens with him going to a priest.
Yeah, and he's like, I've never done this before. Yeah.
And I remember, like, the movie, when it goes to him going to the priest, I'm like, I wish the priest was the main character.
Yeah, and I've actually seen that priest in other things, and he's a good actor.
He is. But it was like his one role.
Yeah.
For one scene.
It was an expensive scene. No, probably not. He's not. But yeah, the guy was just kind of annoying, and I was happy when he got hurt. He doesn't die. Spoiler alert.
Does it?
Well, at least not in this movie. Maybe next movie.
Yeah.
He should have.
It ends weird, and it just ends there.
Yeah.
So you don't really know if he does.
Well,
or doesn't. Or does.
But I didn't really like the way Bagul looked.
Yeah.
Like, even in the previews, I was like, I don't dig it. He looks like the lead guitarist of Slipknot.
Yeah.
Almost exactly.
Even in the first one, he had that, but it was more of like, he had more of a grainy, like, beaten up, like, old film look to him.
Kind of like a Slender Man look.
Yeah. Only it was with eyes and, like, long hair, but more Slender Man-y. So it was, like, very, like, distorted and really cool because he was always distorted. And so you never really figured out what he looked like. And in this one, they had it way too clear.
Yeah, and
it just didn't work.
No, it was just whatever.
It's so much better when he's the grainy, like, creepy, just like...
Especially with the movie, because that kind of gives the film grain a feel to the character, which is kind of... That I feel would have worked a lot better.
Yeah, and that's what made him so creepy in the first one. Because you don't even see him that much in the first one, but whenever you see him, you're like, oh shit, that's creepy. And in this one, it's like you just see him enough times where you're like, I don't care anymore.
Well, even the first time, I was like, whatever.
Yeah.
Because it was so stupid the way they revealed him the first time.
Yeah.
And this movie I guess we're on the negatives now.
Yeah.
This movie suffers from a lot of, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, I understood the motivations, but these people are also stupid. Like, the first time you see, at least I believe it was the first time you see Bagul, dude's on his laptop looking up some house, and then windows just appear of a killed family, and he's just like, huh? What's going on? Dude, he's fucking with you.
Yep.
Like, do something about it. He's like, oh, I don't know. And then all of a sudden his, like, logo appears. Bam. And, like, blood. He's like, oh my goodness. And then his computer shuts down. He's like, why did it shut down? Are you dumb?
Yeah, like, you're tracking this supernatural entity. And when supernatural shit starts happening, you're just like,
I wonder what's going on. I don't know.
And it's like, this movie has a lot of jump scares in it, which I did not expect because the first one didn't really have jump scares.
There were a couple.
Much.
It wasn't too bad.
But it was well done jump scares. So that's going kind of back to positive. But at the same time, you expected them to happen.
Oh, guaranteed.
So
They were built. Like, it was jump scare.
Or, ooh, whoa, faked you out.
And then jump scare.
Yep.
Just kidding, I faked you out again.
And they do stuff like that. But then you have the one great jump scare, which I think is my favorite scene in the whole movie, where Bagul, like, the detective's walking around in the old church, and Bagul just, like, pops up right next to him, and he falls through a fucking wall.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
I was like, that is amazing. It's exactly what you'd expect a friend to do when you're, like, ghost hunting or doing something normally, and somebody just scares them out of nowhere. It was like, yes. And then Bagul didn't do anything about it either, because he's cool like that. He's like, gotcha, you know I'm here.
Boo, motherfucker. I got a show to do. I got a show to do. Corey's gonna be pissed at me if I skip out on it. I'll be back.
Oh, Mick. Because he looks like Mick from Slipknot. But yeah, and then, like, I'm not sure how much. I'm trying to remember what I was trying to say now. Yep, I lost it. Oh, it was the kids. They set it up so that you have, like, the one good kid, the one bad kid. And, like, they set it up so that it's the whole, he's corrupting innocence. You expect that it's going to be the good kid.
Which was this hand.
Or whatever. I'm not watching my hands. But so, it's like you're expecting one of the kids to be the one that he's after no matter what, because it'd be like the big triumph. And then you find out, which, spoiler territory here, so if you don't want to know this, skip ahead. You find out that it's the bad kid that he was after.
Well,
which it kind of makes sense because, like you pointed out when we were talking about the movie after.
At the beginning, the
progressively
very
gets
first
worse.
scene that they show these kids, they're pretty equal. They're both kind of douchey, you know, playing around in a supermarket.
But you have the one that's more timid,
yeah,
the one that isn't.
And then throughout the movie, he gets progressively douchier for really ridiculous reasons.
Yep.
And I feel like Bagul has to be, like, in this kid's mind, driving this kid mad before he starts watching.
Which I think that was one of their big fail, because they didn't
show that. He just ramp, like, it's kind of like a curve like that.
And it's in the background,
he's like, okay. And then he just starts to be a douche. He's like, why are you being such a douche? And then all of a sudden he's like, fuck you, cunt. And boom.
Goes off the charts. But it's also weird because it's like, because they never focus on that kid either.
No.
So it's like you don't attach yourself to what's happening to him, which would have made it a lot creepier to have seen that
the fall
from his side rather than always seeing it from the other kid's side, because they only ever show it from the other kid's side of things, and that's what made it kind of fail for me.
And it's also, like, when he finally does fall, it's just not shocking.
Yeah.
It's like, this kid was already a douche.
Yeah.
Like,
it's like, this was too easy at this point.
And you don't care about him either.
Yeah. And then if we go all the way back into, like, the negatives of bad character decisions, which there's a lot of in this movie.
Yeah, definitely.
Like you said, the detective, but then, like, later on in the movie, the detective finds out that Bagul needs to use media. He uses media to capture his presence so that way he can infect the new family. Yeah. Essentially, and live forever type of a thing. It's kind of like that whole aspect. And so then what does he do? keeps trying to save the media that Bagul is infecting next. Because it's like he's trying to destroy stuff and destroy the old media, but then when you find out that Bagul has been possessing your computer and you decide to take your computer everywhere with you, you're essentially bringing Bagul with you the entire movie. They don't really get too much into that.
They don't get into it at all.
But
yeah, I can totally. The next movie is gonna be like, it's gonna be all over YouTube.
Yeah, it's gonna be Bagul just YouTubing people.
Yeah, killing YouTubers. Fuck.
Bring it, Bagul. Oh, Babadook. Yeah, because you got bad decisions like that, and you've also got the kid himself doing a bad, really, like the worst decision in the entire movie.
Kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The good kid notices what the bad kid is doing and knows exactly what he's doing. Looks at water after being served by the kid. Like the bad kid walks around, hands a tray of water to his entire family. The good kid hasn't even taken a sip yet. Grabs a cell phone, texts the detective, looks at the water, still hasn't taken a sip yet, but then it cuts to a moment where he obviously drank the water. When he's sitting there looking right at his brother filming them.
Yeah, and the good kid can see the ghost kids.
Yeah.
So he knows he's being watched by the ghost kids and being filmed by the brother. And he knows he has seen all of these movies.
Yeah.
He knows that the next thing that happens is the family dies.
Yeah.
Yet he does nothing.
Nope. He texts the sheriff and then drinks the water anyway. That's the only conclusion we can make because he ends up on the cross with the family.
Yeah, he ends up in the situation that he foresaw coming.
Yeah. So it's like, what?
Yeah, like, it doesn't make any sense.
Because it would have added so much more depth if he would have tried to stop it. And you saw like a struggle. And then that would have heightened that moment even more.
Yeah.
Because then when you get to that moment, it just kind of jump cuts to it. The moment, and you're like, wait. So we're playing this now? Just suddenly bad situation happening.
Yeah, it wasn't very well thought out.
And then the final big character problem was the ending chase.
Well, it was just riddled with bad decisions.
Cornfield. He drives into a cornfield with his truck.
Well, how much of this are we gonna give away?
I'm not gonna give away. I'm just saying he drives into the cornfield with his truck. I'm not gonna say anything else about it. But then they have to run away. Rather than either jumping back in the truck, which was still running.
Yeah, the truck was still going.
Or running down the path that you just cut through the corn with your truck. They run into the thick of the corn.
Yeah,
like what? And there's another. Then, when running away again, a part that pissed you off, they run upstairs to hide from somebody.
Like the kid knows about the ghost kids. And he's totally complacent about going upstairs and trapping himself upstairs, even though he knows these ghost kids are going to be looking for him. Mm-hmm. And I assume he knows that the adults can't see the ghost kids.
Yeah.
Although that's never expressly stated.
Yeah.
And he knows that the other kid's looking for him.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you not just either get in the dad's truck?
Yeah.
Actually, no, that was in the cornfield. I'm sure he has a car or
something. Well, the detective's
just
truck.
Leave the house.
The detective's truck was in the cornfield.
But so was
was Dad's. Yeah, I forgot. Because the other kid drove it in there.
So why would you go in the house in the first place, other than to have a big climactic battle in the house?
Yep.
And that's just stupid. And then they hide in the bathroom, because that's what you do. You hide in the bathroom.
Yep.
Nobody thinks to check the bathroom.
Never. It's not just the place where everybody hides.
No. It only would have been more cliche had he been under his bed.
Yep.
Verdict. Was this a good movie, Luke? Did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed it, but I wouldn't say it's a movie to go see in a theater.
Okay.
Because I'm a horror movie fan, And as a horror movie, it wasn't the worst horror movie ever. It was a complacent enough horror movie where it was entertaining to watch. Like I never was bored watching it.
Yeah, no, it wasn't boring.
It never lost my interest either. I was like, oh, I'm still interested in this, even though it's kind of stupid at parts. And I still enjoyed the lore that they were building of the Bagul. So I'd say watch it. Don't expect it to be nearly as good as the first one, because the first one compared to this is a much different film. This had more of like a 90s camp element going on with it, where the first one had more of like a psychological like mystery going on about it.
Yeah, it really was not a bad movie. Mm-hmm. I really don't like horror movies. They bore the shit out of me. But this one wasn't super boring because of those snuff films. Mm-hmm. I felt those were interesting. Yeah, even if I didn't give a fuck about any of the normal characters or even the people who died in the snuff films, at least they did it in a creative and cool way.
And like when those snuff films are playing, you do get that element of, oh, this is creepy.
Yeah.
Even though the rest of the movie doesn't set that up.
And the soundtrack was jamming.
Yep.
It was a good soundtrack for the creepy stuff. Yeah. It really worked.
And I mean, like the movie itself, like if you take the technical aspects of the movie, aside from maybe like the writing and the dialogue.
Yeah, the writing was the dialogue was
had very simple cinematography, but well done.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the moments in it are just really like beautifully shot. It's one of those horror movies where when you're watching it, it actually feels like you're in that environment. Like when he's walking through the church, walking through like an old dilapidated church, it felt like an actual old dilapidated church moment. So they kept it nice and realistic in that aspect. They had kept the cinematography going good with that. The sound design was good. The music was good. So it's like all the technical aspects were there. So you've got it.
It just wasn't a good script.
Movie. No.
I mean, that's what it boils down to. Yeah. The director did his job. And that was about it. I know that lady can act. I've seen her in A Knight's Tale, and she was good in that.
And even in this movie, you could tell she was trying.
She tries.
She's trying so hard to make do with that script.
One part that I felt I did not get a payoff was they got drunk for some reason.
Well, talking
in this house
about stuff,
and then they started making out, and I was like, "Ooh, boob!" And no boob, no boobs in this movie, which is fine. Except,
so if we were
at that point in the movie, I was getting a little bored because nothing had happened for a good 20 minutes.
They had a nice chunk,
and they were just drunk. Even though this guy claimed to have been super scared of this house at night, and then all of a sudden, she I feel like she was pregnant during the filming of this movie or something. Because she was covered.
They hide her tummy the whole time.
They hide her tummy. They hide her. Everything is hidden. So that's the vibe that I got. Yeah. Like, she got pregnant in the beginning when she took the role, and then all of a sudden, oh shit, I'm pregnant, and then they had to work around it.
But yeah, so if this was CinemaSins, Jeremy would have been depressed because that scene did not contain a lap dance.
Or boobs. I just wanted boobs.
So yeah, I would suggest, like, if you're interested,
or what? Wait till it comes out on Netflix.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a super duper fan of the first one, you'll probably be super disappointed.
Yeah, but you're not going to be not entertained by the movie either. Like, if you know that you're going into the movie and you actually really want to see it because you really like the first one, go see it in the theater then.
Yeah,
but don't go out of your way.
I had no expectations of the movie. I expected it to be dreadful.
Yeah,
and I was pleasantly surprised that it was mediocre.
And it's a horror sequel, so I went into it thinking this could be bad, but it's got like the same team kind of from the first one a little bit. You've got the director from the first one back on it as the producer.
He did not direct this one?
No, he did not direct it. Because I didn't even realize that until the end credits. I saw a totally different director's name by it. But then I saw that he did a good job. But he co-wrote.
Good job.
He co-wrote it and he produced it.
He co-wrote it?
Yeah.
How did you let the fucking... There was one good dialogue in the whole movie. And it was a joke against... Yes. It was a joke against his terrible dialogue. That's the only thing he wrote. That has to be the only thing he wrote.
Might have been. Maybe he wrote like the whole story aspect, but didn't have anything to do with the dialogue.
It was just bad.
Like, you might have had the whole concept written out and everything, and somebody else came in.
Yeah, the outline and then the other guy.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that producer, Scott Derrickson, I think. Trying to remember the name. Whatever
Derek
his name
Scottson.
is. Whatever his name is, he's the guy who's directing Doctor Strange.
Yep.
That's part of the other reason I want to see this movie, because I want to see if he still could get like the right vibe of the movie going, even though he produced it. And it was still there. It still had the right kind of creepy elements, because like we said, everything but the writing was pretty much on par.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
So, yep. So yeah, stream it.
Yeah. Unless you have $10 burning a hole in your pocket and absolutely positively have to see a scary movie right now.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure it's better than... I don't think there is any other scary movies out right now.
I don't think so.
It's better than Fantastic Four. Definitely better
that
than
was a scary movie. Scary how bad a movie could be. No. Scary how easily a producer can destroy a director's career.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so that's our second ever movie review.
Woo!
So yeah, remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, follow us
on Facebook and Twitter.
And if you've seen the movie, comment below. If you've seen the first movie, comment below.
If you haven't seen either of them and think we're dumbasses, comment below.
Just comment about anything. We don't care.
Except racist stuff. Unless you're being racist against whites, that's fine.
Or gnomes.
Don't hate on gnome. Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah.
I'm a monster. Rawr. Oh, damn. Rawr. I gotta do that again. I'm a monster. Rawr.
Jeremy has turned into Bagul, the gnome version.
Not that short. This is rude.
Oh, it's gonna be with badgers instead of children.
Badgers. Badger, mushroom.